Shabbat Shalom, everybody. Thank you for that beautiful music from our, I don't know, there we go. Beautiful music from our sanctuary, Jonathan. I'm Rabbi Jessica Graf. I don't know why I'm echoing. Cantor, Rabbi Abby Phelps is here with us. Oh, thank you. Whatever. That was great. Maybe Jonathan fixed that. Jonathan Dimmick, our awesome music director, who comes to us with such beautiful neshama from soul, from our sanctuary. And Zach and Peter, who are helping to make this work. I know in some ways we're all really disappointed to be not together in the same room, and at the same time, there's something kind of cozy, kind of nostalgic about being on Zoom. We hope it will just be for a couple of weeks. Thank you to all of you for your beautiful messages of thanks today, for the email that went out this morning as we try so hard to figure out how to be together and to uplift our community, take care of each other, and also be safe at this craziest of moments in history. So hopefully this will pass quickly, this Omicron time. And it's a good moment to just say next Wednesday we'll have a From the Front Lines conversation about Omicron. So please join us with all of your questions. There'll be an email going out on Monday allowing you to submit your questions for consideration by our two medical experts who will join us on Wednesday. So enough about that. For this moment, it's Shabbat, and I want to share, without embarrassing you, Roz, the greatest email ever. There she is. The greatest email ever, asking how, essentially, I'll paraphrase, how fancy a bathrobe Roz should wear for this great occasion tonight. So she's wearing a brand new bathrobe, and all of you can see Roz's robe on behalf of our on behalf of our gathering this way. And so, oh, there we go. It is fancy, and I hope you will wear it to the sanctuary. So Shabbat Shalom to all of you, wherever you are. We are a community. I want to invite Richard Johns, who's on our board of trustees, to share some words of welcome.
I'm sorry, Rabbi. I think it's actually my turn this week. I think he was last week.
I apologize. Sorry.
Okay.
My fault that I did not update the initials. Apologies.
If he'd been here, I would have let him go, but let me go ahead in that since it's...
I missed something.
Thanks. All right, so good evening, everyone. Welcome to Congregation Shereth Israel's Friday night services. My name is Alan Mervis, and for the few of you on the Zoom who don't know who I am, I'm a member of the Board of Trustees. So as I was reflecting on what it is that I wanted to say, I realized that tonight is the first Shabbat service of 2022. We're on to a new year. As I think about back over this past week, it's been, as Rabbi Graf kind of indicated, yet another difficult one. We're back on Zoom after having enjoyed several weeks of real live in-person services. We marked the one-year anniversary of the greatest threat to our American democracy, arguably since our nation's founding, the January 6th insurrection. And the great American actor, activist icon Sidney Poitier, as well as beloved actor Betty White, both passed away this week, along with a myriad of other events that, small and large. But counterbalancing that, there's so much good news. After a count of less than 2,000 monarch butterflies arriving in Monterey last year, with ecologists predicting their extinction, this year's count soared by almost 5,000%. That's a 5,000% increase. Diane and I took a drive across the Golden Gate Bridge last week to Santa Rosa. I strongly urge each and every one of you who haven't gotten out into the countryside to go out. The hills were bright with green grass, the trees, while the leaves were down, looked healthy. The air was heavenly. Every day, there are miracles all around us, large and small. So I keep coming back to one of Rabbi Graf's favorite words, resiliency, and add to hers my own, community. We have all weathered so much together this past year, and we remain standing tall. Together, we will make 2022 better for me and you. Shabbat Shalom, everyone.
Yay, I love that. Hope and really beautiful sentiment about how we have a new beginning coming up. Thank you so much. And I love hearing that the earth is healing a little bit, even as we're all stepping back to allow some space. So we will really begin this on page 2 if you have a Siddur or you want to follow along in the online Siddur with the lighting of Shabbat candles. For those of you who have candles nearby in a safe way where you can light them, I invite you to light and join with Cantor Glaser in the chanting of this beautiful blessing.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lehadlik ner shel Shabbat.
We welcome Shabbat with the light and with the angels that surround us for these 25 hours. We take a deep breath and turn to page 20 as we welcome each other into this space with words of Lecha Dodi.
Lecha Dodi לקראת קלה פני שבת נקבלה לך דודי לקראת קלה פני שבת נקבלה שמור וזכור בדיבור אחד השמיענו אל המיוחד אדוני אחד ושמו אחד לשם לתפארת ולתהילה לך דודי לקראת קלה פני שבת נקבלה לך דודי לקראת קלה פני שבת נקבלה לקראת שבת לכו ונלכה כי היא מקור הברכה מראש מקדם נסוכה סוף מעשה במחשבה תחילה לך דודי לקראת קלה פני שבת נקבלה לך דודי לקראת קלה פני שבת נקבלה התעוררי, התעוררי, כי באורך קומי אורי, 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 שדברי, כבוד אדוני אלייך נקרא לך דודי, לקראת קלה, פני שבת, נקבלה לך דודי, לקראת קלה, פני שבת, נקבלה. בואי ושלום עטרת בעלה גם בשמחה ובצהלה תוך אמוני עם סגולה בואי חלה בואי חלה לך דודי לקראת קלה פני שבת נקבלה לך דודי לקראת קלה פני שבת נקבלה לך דודי לקראת קלה פני שבת נקבלה לך דודי לקראת קלה פני שבת נקבלה.
We'll continue with our Shabbat service on page 28.
Hi.
The Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
We'll hear more from Master Zachary Graf in just a minute. But first, Baruch Hu on page 28.
Yadai-dai-dai-dai, 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 yadai-dai-dai-dai. ברכו את אדוני המבורך, ברוך אדוני המבורך לעולם ועד, לעולם ועד. ידאי-דאי-דאי, ידאי-דאי-דאי-דאי, 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 ידאי-דאי-דאי-דאי.
We continue with Ahavat Olam as we thank God for a world, even a complicated.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year, everybody. Even
Happy New Year, Zachy.
God never leaves us, even in these times where we search for God's presence. Ahavat Olam, page 32.
אהבת עולם בית ישראל, עמך אהבת, תורה ומצוות, חוקים ומשפטים, אותנו לימדת. על כן אדוני אלוהינו, בשוכבנו וקומנו, נשיח בחוקיך, ונשמח בדברי תורתך, ובמצוותיך לעולם ועד. כי הם חיינו ואורך ימינו, ובהם נגה יומם ולילה. ואהבתך אל תסיר ממנו לעולמים. ברוך אתה אדוני אוהב עמו ישראל. שמע ישראל, אדוני אלוהינו, אדוני אחד. ברוך שם כבוד מלכותו לעולם ועד.
Zach has been practicing a version of the Shema every night, and he would like to sing it to follow up with our congregational singing.
Please.
Shema Israel, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Shema Israel, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Shema Israel, Adonai Eloheinu,
Nice job. Zaki sings it before he goes to sleep. We're very proud of you. And now we will continue with Ve'ahavta, the next part of the Shema.
It's Ariel Graf.
Ariel Graf is going to help
I need the book.
is going to help lead us
I
in
want-
Ve'ahavta. Okay. Page, where's the book is? Thank you. Page 36.
ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודיך. והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווה היום על לבביך ושיננתם לבניך ודיברת בם בשבתך בביתך ובלכתך בדרך ובשוכבך ובקומך וקשרתם לאות על ידיך וחיו לטוטפות בין עיניך וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מיתותיי ואתם קדושים לאלוהיכם. אני אדוני אלוהיכם אשר הוצאתיכם מארץ מצרים להיות לכם לאלוהים. אני אדוני אלוהיכם.
Adonai Elohechem Emet. Yasher Koach. Ari, wow, it gets better every time.
Ari and her friends at studio like to lead Ve'ahavta on Sunday mornings, so we hope you will all join us.
I love it. I love it. It's a whole Graf family affair this evening.
It's like the Von Trapps over there.
Indeed, the Jewish Von Trapps. We're going to continue our service with Micha Mocha. We are still this week in Parshat Bo in the early stages of the Exodus, but every week we remind ourselves of this moment of freedom that we celebrate in Micha Mocha. Please join us on page 40.
מי כמוך באלים אדוני, מי כמוך נהדר בקודש, נורא תהילות אוסף אלף, נורא תהילות אוסף אלף, מלכותך ראו בניך, בוקע ים לפני משה ומרים, זה לי ענו ואמרו אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד ידי ונאמר כבד אדוני יד יעקב וגאלו מיד חזק ממנו ברוך אתה אדוני גאל ישראל.
We can't all, unfortunately, gaze up at our beautiful dome this evening, so our music director, Jonathan Dimmick, will have to do it on all of our behalfs, but we can spiritually do the same as we envision the beautiful Sukkah of Shalom, the shelter of peace that God extends over us, especially on Shabbat. Please join us in celebrating that Sukkah of Shalom with Hashkivenu on page 43.
השכיבנו אדוני אלוהינו לשלום, לשלום, והעמידנו שומרנו לחיים. ופרוס עלינו סוכת שלומך, ופרוס עלינו סוכת שלומך. Amen. Shelter us beneath your wings, O Adonai. Guard us from all harmful things, O Adonai. Keep us safe throughout the night, till we wake with morning's light. Teach us daily wrong from right. Amen. 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 Amen.
Toby, you got muted.
Amen.
When we come together in prayer on Shabbat, we have the opportunity to pray for many things, joyous things, comfort, but also especially for healing, for members of our community who are in need of healing. And on this Shabbat, we think especially for healing of Aharon Ben Svi, Jeremy Frick, Michael Gaines, Mikiko Huang, William Kurian, Monica Levin, Carolyn Reznikoff, Agnes Rothblatt, and Annette Weiner. And to those names, we add any names that you are holding in your hearts this evening. Please feel free to share their names in the chat and join us in the Misha Berach prayer, which you can find on page 253.
Excuse me, just to fix this capo. Mi sheberach avoteinu mekol habracha imotenu. May the source of strength, who blessed the ones before us, help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say Amen. Sheberach imotenu mekor habracha lavotenu. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shlema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say Amen.
We now invite you to rise for the Amidah, the standing prayer, the central prayer of our service. You can find the text of the Amidah beginning with Adonai Sefatai on page 46 in your prayer book.
Yada dai dai dai, 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 yada dai dai dai. Adonai שפתי תפתח ופי יגיד תהילתך. Adonai, open up my lips, that my mouth may declare your praise. Yadai-dai-dai, yadai-dai-dai-dai, 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 yadai-dai-dai-dai. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu ve'Elohei avotenu ve'imotenu, Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzchak, ve'Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel ve'Elohei Leah, Ha'el Hagadol, Hagibor ve'Hanora, El Elyon, Gomel Chasadim Tovim, ve'Konei Hakol, וזוכר חסדי אבות ואימהות, ומביא גאולה לבני בניהם, למען שמו באהבה. מלך עוזר ומושיע ומגן, ברוך אתה אדוני, מגן אברהם ועזרת שרה. אתה גיבור לעולם אדוני, מחיי הכל אתה, רב להושיע. משיב הרוח ומוריד הגשם, מכלכל חיים בחסד, מחיי הכל ברחמים רבים, סומך נופלים ורופא חולים, ומתיר אסורים, ומקיים אמונתו לשני עפר. מי כמוך בעל גבורות, ומי דומה לך, מלך ממית ומחיה, ומצמיח ישוע, ונאמן אתה להחיות הכל. ברוך אתה אדוני, מחיה הכל. אתה קדוש ושמך קדוש, וקדושים בכל יום יהללוך סלה. ברוך אתה אדוני, האל הקדוש.
Please take a few moments now for your own silent prayers.
עושה שלום במרומיו, הוא יעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל ואמרו אמן. עושה שלום במרומיו, הוא יעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל ואמרו אמן. עושה שלום במרומיו, הוא יעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל ואמרו אמן. עושה שלום במרומיו, הוא יעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל ואמרו אמן. עושה שלום במרומיו, הוא יעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל ואמרו אמן.
Shabbat Shalom again, everybody. And I know we've been trying to fix a problem with the sound. Hopefully you can hear me well enough. If not, let me know. I think it's not here. It seems to be some kind of a Zoom issue, so we'll do the best we can. I don't know. Okay, good. As long as you can hear me, we're good. I'll try. So I just wanted to share a few words of Torah, as we always do when we come together, which is that which anchors us, the Torah. And this week in our Torah portion, we have this great dramatic story in Parshat Bo. In fact, the link to my drash in the J was included in the email that Gordon sent out earlier today. So if you want to hear or read something a little bit different about Parshat Bo, that's another place to look for some words of Torah. I'm talking about midnight there and what midnight means. I'm not going to talk about that here. What I want to talk about here a little bit is Pharaoh. Pharaoh is stricken by a number of plagues that God, through Moses, brings to the Israelite people. And each time that Pharaoh's life gets very difficult with plagues, he agrees to let the Israelites go if the plagues are removed. Each time when the plagues are removed, no sooner has it disappeared, whatever's ailing Pharaoh from God via Moses, then Pharaoh reneges on his promise, forgetting all about his word that he would let the Israelite people go. So I was thinking about this. We're a little bit, only a little bit, but there was something reminiscent of Pharaoh's behavior in Parshat Bo in all of our human behavior. When we want something really, really badly, we agree to behave in a certain way. We agree to change our ways when things are looking challenging. But what happens when we actually arrive at a better place? How will we behave? As we come into end almost of the second year of this pandemic, we have certainly put out a bunch of promises, right? If this pandemic would only go away, we would agree to behave in many new ways. But how will we actually be changed? How will we act with integrity? What will our society look like after this coronavirus has come to an end? We ask for what we want when we want it or when we need it. But the opportunity that stands before us now is a lesson learned from this Torah portion. How do we arrive at gratitude once we receive what we wish for? When this goes away and we begin a new life, how will we arrive at a place of gratitude? Judaism speaks to this in many ways, I think, and one which we're all somewhat familiar with is the motzi. The motzi is a prayer Judaism teaches us, which is easy to say when we're hungry and looking forward to eating. We bless the food in front of us with great anticipation about jumping in. But Birkat Hamazon, the closing prayer at the end of a meal that emphasizes gratitude, is a much harder one for us to remember or to care about. Once we've eaten, we move on to the next thing, and without that rumbling of our stomachs, it's hard to remember to take the time to actually thank God for a change. How do we look at the world according to Judaism? Well, in this Torah portion, like in so many and all of them, we learn something that is applicable to life in general. In this Torah portion, there's an elaborate system devised to remember this time. Never forget what it was like to be slaves, we are told, and never forget what the miracle of arriving to freedom felt like, how miraculous that our fortune changed. In fact, the Torah portion tells us to make a holiday of Pesach and to tell our children always about this foundational story of who we are and who we will become as a result of remembering to be grateful, as a result of remembering where we came from, and to acknowledge how great it is that we are in a different place. We remember that we went from slavery to freedom, and with each meal, we are reminded to acknowledge that we went from hunger to satiety. All of this is for the sake of gratitude. During this week, as I was thinking about this, I read an article that I've read many times before, but I pulled it up again. It was written by Rabbi Larry Hoffman in the New York Jewish Week a few years ago, and it's called All in God's Good Time. It looks at this question of the motzi and the purpose of Birkat Hamazon, and it reminded me of a number of things, even by switching up a little bit what I'm talking about. So we look first at an understanding of Birkat Hamazon in this article and the purpose of it, and then take a peek at what it might bring for us. Rabbi Hoffman writes, it surfaces in Birkat Hamazon, the grace after meals, the blessing we say when we're full, a string of 4 benedictions, the first 3 of which thank God for feeding all creation, rebuilding Jerusalem, and providing for the land of Israel. These date from the 1st or 2nd century, he writes, a time when Jerusalem had been destroyed, our land was under Roman occupation, and there was widespread hunger. What could the rabbis have been thinking when, after every meal, they thanked God for doing what God had clearly not yet done? What is the purpose of Birkat Hamazon spiritually for us? Rabbi Hoffman asks. He writes later on in the article, the rabbis believed that these things would come about, all in God's good time. So a meal begins, actually, with our own human need for food, for connection to God, and ends, according to Rabbi Hoffman, with a beautiful vision of the world that might come when our human needs are taken care of and we are prepared to look beyond ourselves. We work in partnership when we say the words of motzi, even with the incredible messianic message that one day hamotzi lechem min haaretz, bread will come forth from the earth, not only wheat and not only materials, ingredients with which we can make bread, but actually the bread itself. We look to a time when this miracle will be fulfilled and God will bless us in that way. As we read about Pharaoh this week, we learn things from his example of what not to do, how not to live in gratitude, and how to forget so quickly all of the things that we ask for, that our bodies need. And as soon as that is nourished, we forget about our own part of the partnership, our own commitment to repairing the world and to partnering with God to make the world a better place, recognized in the bookended blessing of Birkat Hamazon, after we eat, to remember that we too have an obligation to repair the world. Judaism keeps us focused on the world we dream about, even while we engage in the reality of the world that is. Jewish life allows us to cultivate a commitment to gratitude and the dreams that motivate action, as we say blessings throughout our life, throughout our lives, even for simple things, sometimes for a quick snack. We are reminded that our needs are met by God, by each other, by our toiling in life, and that when our requirements are fulfilled, there's a spiritual realm to which we aspire in partnership with God. Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom. Yasher Koach. Thank you, Rabbi Graf. In the spirit of appreciating the good things in our lives and connecting with the spiritual realm, we want to take a moment now to acknowledge simchas in our community, joyous events that may be happening for folks, birthdays, anniversaries, other kinds of events. So if anybody has an event that they want to share, a simcha, a joyous occasion, please go ahead and put it in the chat so we can celebrate with you. And in honor of those simchas, which I imagine will start pouring into the chat any moment now, but we will presume that there are many of them in any case, we're going to join together in the Shehechianu prayer. So please join us on page 344.
ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם שהחיינו וקיימנו והגיענו לזמן הזה. Amen.
And speaking of aspiring to a messianic age, a perfected world, we're going to join together now in the Aleinu, the prayer in which we proclaim for one another and for ourselves that it's on us, it's our duty to create that perfected world. So please rise and join us on page 282 for Aleinu.
עלינו לשבח לאדון הכל, לתת גדולה ליוצא בראשית, שלא עשנו כגויי הארצות, ולא שמנו כמשפחות האדמה, שלא שם חלקנו כהם, וגורלנו ככל המונם. ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא. ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ ביום ההוא ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד ושמו אחד.
Our thoughts now turn to those who have departed this earth, our own loved ones, those whom our friends and neighbors have lost, the martyrs of our people whose graves are unmarked, and those of every race and every nation whose lives have been a blessing to humanity. On this Shabbat, we remember for Shiva, for the first 7 days of mourning, our beloved community member, Shoshana Chana Asher. And we remember for Shloshim, for the first 30 days of mourning, Jake Houghton, Patricia Mednick, and Cynthia Schumann. If you are also observing Shiva or Shloshim, the first 7 or 30 days of mourning for a loved one whom I have not named, please go ahead and share their name with us in the chat. And if you are in the first year of mourning for a loved one, please share their name with us in the chat. The perpetual memorials in our community are Ingrid Apter, Dr. Elliot Eisenberg, Judy Migdale, Leon Mervis, Harold Weiss, and Joanne May Weiss. We're also observing a number of yard sites this Shabbat. I want to mention especially the yard site of Jackie Faunero. This is her first yard site, and I want to welcome Bob back to our community where he and Jackie were married. We're so glad that we can support you at this time. For yard sites for the anniversary of death on the Shabbat, we also remember Mayor Jack Alpert, Beatrice Austin, Rita Chaney, Tilly Cherney, Jesse Fox, Murray Gallinson, David Igdaloff, John Irwin, Irving Levine, Jeffrey Levine, Joan Litvak, Rose Mandel, William Pincus, Earl Platt, Jack Robinson, Joseph Salinger, Francine Edith Schwartz, Cheryl Gerson Tuttle, Selma Waldman, Deborah Weinstein Stern, Herbert G. Weitzman, and Frida Young. And to those names, we add any names that you are sharing in the chat or that you are thinking of in your hearts this evening. We join together in the Mourner's Kaddish, which you can find in your prayer books on page 294. Please rise. Yitgadal v'yitkadash shmei Rabbah. V'yalma divrach yirutei v'yamlich malchutei. V'chayechon uvyamechon uv'chaye dechol beit Yisrael. Ba'agala u'rizman kariv v'imru amen. Yehei shmei Rabbah mivarach ve'olam u'almei almaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh. V'yit hadar v'yit aleh v'yit halal. Shmei dekudsha brichu. Le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata. Tushbachata v'nechamata. Da'amiran be'alma v'imru amen. Yehei shlama rabba min shmaya. V'chayim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. Say shalom b'mromav. Hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael ve'al kol yoshvei tevel v'imru amen. May the one who creates peace on high bring peace to us, to all Israel, and to all the world. And together we say, Amen.
Amen.
I'm going to make a few announcements at this time. I want to make sure everybody knows, I'm sure you all saw the email that we've already mentioned, but we are going to be very much online this week and next week, and we'll be reevaluating continuously what makes sense in light of Omicron and the state of the pandemic. But we do plan to be online next Friday, so you can join us again here. We will be online for Torah study tomorrow morning with me, so please join us for that at 9:15. If you are a studio family, then on Sunday, in light of Omicron also, we're going to have a slightly shortened session, but it's going to be really fun. We're going to have a family hike at 10 a.m. at Land's End. You can meet us at the Land's End Lookout parking lot. We're going to celebrate Tu B'Shvat and go looking at beautiful trees and the beautiful ocean. So please come for that if you can. And lastly, I want to highlight the fact that on Wednesday next week, we're going to have a From the Frontlines program with the very familiar Dr. Graf, Dr. Jonathan Graf, interviewing a colleague about Omicron, everything you could possibly want to know about Omicron, 5 p.m. next Wednesday. So please join us for that as well if you can. Anybody, Cantor, Rabbi, anybody have anything else they want to add to our announcements?
I just wanted to note, if anybody has questions for that talk, they may email me at programs@sherethisrael.org. You don't have to wait until Monday to contact me, and I will pass them on as soon as I am able.
Thank you, Peter. I am just writing that email address in the chat in case anybody wanted to see it written out. Well, if those are the entirety of our announcements, then we can go ahead and conclude our service. So
I just wanted to say one quick thing. said everything that I think we should say about what's going on. But I just want people to know that, throughout this pandemic, as has been going on for the last 22 months, people are experiencing many other things besides COVID. And as this is crazy making, and the indoors, outdoors, what do we do and how do we do this, and all this new information, we're also experiencing other things in our lives, and joyous things, and also difficult things, and also a lot of frustration with things that might otherwise feel normal. So please reach out to us if we can help. If you need help getting somewhere or getting something, or with food, or you just want to talk, our community is open and is available, and it's been quite extraordinary in supporting. We've supported each other through all this time, and hopefully we're getting towards the end of this, but it's not over. And there are a lot of challenges that come with this time of kind of shutting down again. So please be in touch with us by email or by phone if you need to reach any of us. There are a lot of us who are ready and willing to help in any way.
Thank you, Rabbi Graf. Point well taken. And yeah, we're all happy to hear from you if there's anything we can do to be helpful. But also, we are excited to bless Shabbat. So I want to encourage you, if you have a Kiddush cup, to go ahead and hold it up so that we can all see, including Cantor Glaser, who's holding his cup up. And we're going to go ahead and join in the Kiddush, which you can find on page 5.
Yes, and I will just get to the right page. 1 second. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei peri hagafen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'ratzavanu at kodsho be'ahava uvradzon hinchilanu זיכרון למעשה וראשית, כי הוא יום תחילה למקראי קודש, זכר ליציאת מצרים. כי בנו בחרת ואותנו קידשת מכל העמים, ושבת קודשך באהבה וברצון הנחלתנו. ברוך אתה אדוני מקדש השבת. Amen. L'chaim.
Chaim, I want to acknowledge something that's in the chat too. I think Frances Bertetta is on the phone with us. She is one of our senior members. I think it's allowed to say that when you're over 100, right? You become a senior member. And I want to say, if Frances can get on Zoom, then we can all get on Zoom, which is awesome. And Laura and Steve, I don't see Ruth in your little picture there, but is she with you? I had such a great privilege to meet with another one of our 104-year-old ladies today. Just such a treat for me. So she's not with you.
She's not. She had such fun with you. She just kept sleeping. So she's napping.
I'm ready for a nap too after our very vibrant conversation.
Yeah.
Well, it's awesome. And our community is really, vast and amazing. So Shabbat Shalom to all of you. And Roz, it's okay if you want to wear the same bathrobe next week, or you can look into a new one. It's up to you.
Amen. And I think Frances was on last week too, which is exciting. I noticed, Frances is a real diehard and a real Zoom aficionado. So we're glad you're here. We're glad all of you are here.
Yes, and on that note, thank you so much as well to Jonathan Dimmick for holding the fort in the sanctuary. It's a little up in the air at the moment about how we're running things over the next couple of weeks, but he very graciously agreed to play a few interludes and some beautiful prayerful music in our Amidah, which brought so much to the service. So thank you so much, Jonathan.
Yeah, thank you.
And for letting us be with you in the sanctuary. You represent all of us in that sacred space that is our home that we yearn to be back in. We will be soon.
Mm-hmm.
Well, thank you for bringing your music to our worship. It's been wonderful. And we are going to now do probably my favorite thing that we get to do in the Zoom service, which is hold up our chalot. If you happen to be somebody who has a beautiful challah out there in the world, go ahead and hold it up so folks can see. I am going to gallery view so I can see who's. Ruth's got one. It looks lovely. Dorothy has a tiny one that also looks lovely. Chris and Janet have one. I'm sure lots of folks have them and I'm missing them. But oh yeah, okay, I already said Ruth. Sharon Bill.
Evan has one and a very big grin.
Ooh, very nice. Robert and Pearl have a beautiful one too. Ooh, look at that. It's a lovely color.
Oh, beautiful.
Well, in honor of all of these beautiful chalot, we're going to join together in Hamotzi.
Ruth, do you want to lead us since you're up there?
Sure.
Excellent.
Cool flavor, Ruth. What's the first challah of the year?
Well, thanks to you, it's apricot and chocolate.
That's
beautiful.
Thanks to Mimi Goss's great idea. I cannot take.
Well, you inspired me. So it's a sort of a babka challah.
I hope you're delivering one over here too. Sounds amazing.
You know how to make them yourself now.
Luke apparently had a challah flambe, which doesn't sound as. That's probably not the most common challah type, but we hope next time, if you know that it's intentional that you light the challah on fire. It's like a fancy display.
Douse it with bourbon first.
Oh, there we go. Yes.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam hamotzi lachem min haaretz v'te'avon.
Amen.
Shabbat shalom, everybody.
Shabbat shalom. Enjoy your fabulous sounding challah. We're going to conclude our service, as we often do, with a prayer for peace, with an Oseh Shalom. So you probably know the words. If you want them, they're on page 353. But whether you're looking at the words or not, we wish you a Shabbat of rest and peace. And we hope you'll join us in singing this concluding song.
Yes, and since we have our wonderful music director, would you like to give us a little introduction in E minor, Jonathan? Oseh shalom bimromav, hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael, ve'al kol yoshvei tevel, ve'imru amen. Oseh shalom bimromav, hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael, ve'al kol yoshvei tevel, ve'imru amen. Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom, everybody.